Three, two, one. Let's go. Articles on Germany. Cynicism is popular. Bike ride was easy, and August animation begins. But posting it can be a difficulty. Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. I'm Steven Sersky. Hope you folks are doing well. And yes, I am continuing on with the live streams here. You can find that on YouTube. And if you're keeping track, if you're keeping score, I have not created a new channel for it just yet. I will get that done. The reason why is because I want to block together, or chunk together the podcast and the audio blog into one channel, have a separate channel for all my travel raw videos and stuff like that, and then possibly even a third channel in which I deal with more what would you call it, creative sort of stuff. But yeah, basically that's how I'm sort of divvying it all up in my mind so far. And by the creative stuff, I mean like maybe make your movie, this August animation that I've started, and any of the other sort of whacked out ideas I come up with for video stuff, more the creative sort of filmmaking side of things. For those of you who are just joining along, I am Steven Sersky, and I live in Beijing, China. This is a daily audio digest I publish Monday to Friday. You can find the archives on my website, stevensersky.com. That's where I put everything. You can download the MP3s. This podcast is available on Spotify and Anchor.fm. Although I've just seen another podcast that I listen to on a regular basis get delisted from Spotify. So I'm not sure. Actually, that's one of the reasons why I don't push the Spotify link, is because I've seen a few people sort of get clipped by it, and I don't want to be one of them. So I do offer the MP3s for download on my website. Now I've started live streaming this as well on YouTube. So if you want to join me every night, it's not a fixed time. I guess I should fix the time a little bit properly, so if people want to join in, they can. But I don't, as it stands. This articles on Germany. So I actually I don't know if I actually covered this in the podcast, the interviews that I had with Denny going so many months ago. But I remember asking him what, because he does a lot of this sort of research, a lot of reading about these sorts of things, history, and sort of how some things can transpire if in certain historical circumstances. And the one that I'm sort of thinking of is like the rise of Nazi Germany throughout the 30s and leading into World War II. Like what happened between World War I and World War II, and how did it sort of play out? Because with Ukraine and a lot of the Ukrainian soldiers being labeled Nazis, this is something that, it does strike a chord. And I go, well, is this something that should be actually like considered in a light, or is it a falsification and sort of a propaganda measure? And it honestly, it looks like it's more of a propaganda measure. There are some nationalists, but there are, by the way of being a nationalist in Ukraine, is believing that the Ukrainian nation exists. That is what the Russian government is labeling as a nationalist, and associating that with the rather derogatory term of previous political parties, such as the Nazis in Germany. So the first article that these are all published in Foreign Affairs, and there's a series of them. There's 5 or 6 of them that range from like 1931 to 1940. And this gets me because it seems like the first article that appears in Foreign Affairs was 1931, in which they talk, this person, I can't remember who it is. I have it right here. 1 second. The author is Erich Kochweiser, and it's April 1931, and it's called Radical Forces in Germany. And in this article, he talks about the different political parties in Germany at that time. Now, keep in mind, this is 1931, 8 years before like the official start of World War II. But in it, he talks about how like there was even here in Munich, November 1923, in the picture, Nazi party members during the failed coup attempt known as the Beer Hall Putsch. And there's a picture of a bunch of Nazi soldiers in a convoy heading towards, I'm not sure where they're going, somewhere in Munich, of course. So this that's 1923. So the party was around. It wasn't nothing. It wasn't anything new. And he talks about the different, like the political setup that was um, in play in Germany at that time, and how things were slowly being stripped away, not necessarily from the elites, but from the middle, the middle class, and specifically the middle range of people, like even the upper portions, upper echelons of the lower, like where you sort of border on, like, are you poor or are you rich or are you somewhere in between? You're not rich, but you're not poor, sort of thing. And he talks about how even they had started losing hope of making a better life. And it was, even though that they're educated, that they had skills that could be utilized in Germany at that time throughout the late 1920s and the 1930s, when the Nazi Party was gaining traction. They were feeling a little bit, not just feeling, but they were being left behind economically and socially and everything. And so that's how the party seemed to have gained even more traction with the groups that they did. And this article, I'm going to have to reread it because it is a very powerful article in that it talks a lot about the social and the economic sort of circumstances that gave a push to the party as it is. And with all the talk, Ukraine, China, United States, of current European politics and blah blah blah, do do you see any lack of hope wherever you are? And this also goes along with, I've been following this guy Gary Vaynerchuk, who's like, big on the pushing towards, if you have a hobby, if you have a passion, if you have something that you think that you're very much interested in, and you think there's a chance of making a business of it, go for it. This is the time right now because the internet is there, the tools are there, the technology is there for you to take advantage of it. So tying this back into with this, early 1930s Germany situation, I go, is there a lack of hope these days? And I mean, even looking here in China, I go, there's no lack of hope. People here still have a hope. There's still opportunities to explore. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago on a couple of podcasts, and so there is that avenue. There is very much a place where people can move ahead, where people can gain not just for now, but for later, and not just for themselves, but also for their families. Yes, I've talked about Beijing being very expensive. China can be expensive in portions, but every capital city around the world is horribly expensive. I mean, I remember complaining about Perth and almost getting punched in the face because a guy from Perth was like, "How dare you call Perth so expensive?" Like, well, but it is. It's really expensive. That being the case, I mean, there's still hope. Like in Perth, you can get jobs in the mines and everywhere, right? Now that was a decade ago or so, but again, like wherever you are situated right now, do you see a lack of hope, or do you see hope in something becoming better or something that you're able to work towards? And I guess the question is, of course, like, when do you sort of call it? When do you end that hope? When does it become hopeless to pursue this, even with all the motivational YouTube videos that you could possibly muster? Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, Gary Vaynerchuk. Even if you go Tony Robbins, you go that route. I mean, when you stop looking at that stuff and go, "That's it, I throw in the towel." Is it there? I don't think we are. I don't think we are at that point of hopelessness, which means we are not in a depression, which means that even all this talk of a recession, I don't know. I think I say that this time is different. It's not even so much different as that it's much more dynamic. There are so many more ways for us to take advantage of the opportunities presented to us. Now, I speak as an English teacher in Beijing, China. I'm fully aware of my situation here. And is it the same for other people around the world? This is what I'd like to know. I mean, where are people feeling the pinch, like actually feeling the pinch? This invasion of Ukraine by Russia has put this into the spotlight because of the grain situation, the food situation. Is it going to start creating issues or knock on effects wherein we see discontent, malcontent around the world? Very good question. Of all things, I'll tell you, even amongst the expat community, and this is, you think you'd leave this stuff behind when you travel overseas, but you just hear another version of it. Oh, the government does this and such and such. Often from Americans, sometimes from British folks. Canadians are just as bad. I mean, mostly it's a developed nation sort of opinion or viewpoint, but the cynicism of the government, like the government is always wrong. But yet all these people who criticize their governments, none of them have rejected their passports. You can do this. It costs $500 to reject the American passport. The Canadian passport, is it a couple hundred? I can't remember. It's a process. It takes a long time. You can't just walk in and do it. You could chew up your passport, and all you're doing is damaging, technically, federal property. And I guess they can do something against you. I'm not entirely sure what they would do, but of all the criticism, they live overseas. They won't reject their citizenship. They won't reject their passports because, let's face it, what other passport would they travel on? What other passport could they get? This struck me because I saw a few comments through WeChat, a few posts, people being very critical of Western style systems, and I go, I've said before, the system isn't in danger. I don't think, at least not that I can see. What do you see? Do you see the Western system in danger, the democratic, capitalistic, or do you see it another way? Because those two words I throw out there, but I mean, that's just very common. I would almost say it's a cop out to call it those things, democratic and capitalist. I mean, we would say it's a given, but would you see it some other way? Do you see it differently? How do you see it? Is the cynicism warranted or is it misplaced? Yeah. And let's put it this way. Would you reject your citizenship? Would you reject your passport? I don't know if I'd do that with a Canadian passport. Oof. It would, dual citizenship somewhere? Maybe. But rejecting a Canadian passport? Ugh. That would be a big push, I'll tell you. Anyway, moving on. Bike ride was actually pretty easy today. Got up and I'm trying a new thing. Don't hit snooze twice on the alarm, which is easier said than done. But I did sleep so well last night, thankfully, and I was able to. But the alarm went off at 5:50. I pressed it again at 6 o'clock, so that's once, and then by 6:08, I'm like, okay, if you're not going to press it, then, but you don't want to get out of bed, then you have to do something else. So I did my Chinese vocab, like literally got my phone and blurry-eyed, I was like pressing buttons. I've said to people, you should do this. You should just do your vocab, make it muscle memory in the morning, just go through it. And I'm sitting there this morning going through it as, again, just getting it done. Now, is it going to stick? Good question. I'd like to say that the reason I would push for that sort of methodology of study is because by the time you get up and you go do your workout or whatever, and then you get to work, you've already done 2 or 3 things, right? Like that's sort of the productive push that I like to see in my day, is that by 8 o'clock, by 9 o'clock, I've done 3, 4 things already on my normal schedule. Like it's a routine. I want to get this stuff done. I don't want to be thinking of it like, oh, wow, I really should have done my vocab. Oh, I could have got up on that first snooze alarm. Oh, I really could have gone 10 miles on the bike ride. I don't want to think that. I want to get it done. And that way I'll be able to look, because I keep track of my workouts on this app. The Anki Droid blocks me out from doing that same flashcard set again. So that way it's a little check mark. And the fact that I got it all done before work means that I was actually able to get up and get going. So things like that, where it's like, it's great to have those 2 or 3 check marks in the morning, not to mention making coffee. So, bike ride was actually pretty easy today, 10 miles. Got that in just under an hour. Didn't want to do the run after work, but did it anyway, put the shoes on. And I don't know, maybe the GPS was wrong or something, but I ran it in under 20 minutes, which now pushes my mileage to 9.5 minutes per mile on average. So, not bad. I'm surprised. Is it because I didn't run this morning and so I wasn't lethargic? Was it because I didn't work out? Is it cross training, that sort of style of, where you cycle instead, so you're working a different muscle group and giving your other muscles a rest? I know at the end of the run, I was sort of feeling my hamstring. I was going, eesh, I better not push this because I don't want it to pull or cramp, or it's not going to snap. I don't think it will. But along those lines, I want to be able to get up tomorrow morning and get back at it, sort of thing. I don't want to be nursing an injury. So I feel no need to sort of push myself through any potential injuries, and I hope you don't either. August animation. So I have started this, and I was thinking of this because I got two rough sketches done yesterday, and I'm looking at this going, do I force myself to do it every day? As in, like, do I publish something every day, or do I work on it every day with the idea that maybe at the end of the week I spend some time polishing these things up? And I kind of like that idea a little bit better, because then it gives me more time to just focus on creating something every day and then worrying about uploading and stuff like that later on. Specifically, there's actually 2 things I want to work on this month when I'm talking about working on animation. Number one, I want to get away from the computer. So I don't want to sit down on my MacBook and play around with Apple Motion or After Effects, Adobe After Effects, or anything. No, I want to do physical. I want to do real things, so it's stop motion, claymation. I will allow myself to work with an iPad and do cell by cell animation. That's one thing I'll let myself do, which I think is I was working on that last night. But again, I really do want to step away and start playing around with a lot more physical animation. I think it'd be a little bit more interesting and would push the boundaries just a little bit more, even though it's very time consuming. I'm not gonna lie. New Sliv videos up. My language acquisition vlog posted only one video today. I had 3 questions for viewers. And number 1, what language learning troubles are you having or have you had? Is technology making your life easier or harder when it comes to studying your language? Number 3, what was some of the best advice that you've received in terms of learning a language? And I left that open for people to respond in the comments. We'll see how it goes. I found that the spike in views actually happens, when I go to bed, sort of thing. So it's like Western time, North America time, that people seem to see the videos that I post. These are all shorts. I've been posting a lot of YouTube shorts lately. It's a lot nice and easy. I'll tell you, it's easier for me to think in 1-minute chunks than for me to think in like 5-minute video blocks or 15-minute presentations. And this goes the same for Chinese. Like, the reason I've been focusing on publishing a lot of the English stuff is that actually a lot of the English videos that I'm posting deal a lot with just stuff that I've been talking about for years. I used to tell my students a lot, like in class, in the larger classes, that I hear students the errors that they're making now, or the misconceptions that they have about certain aspects of learning a language or ESL, even standardized testing, like some of the issues that they might have with like IELTS or TOEFL, and like the GREs. GRE I don't really know so well, so I can't speak to too much, but some of the other ESL specific tests, it's a little bit easier to sort of understand what the misconception is and what the reality is. So again, that is all on YouTube. I have not set up a separate link or website for that just yet. Thinking about how else I can sort of spin it off away from my main site, only because I'm like, you know what, it'd be kind of nice to have a bit of separation from there. Like, it's like Teacher Steve and like travel other Steve. if you're going to give me that leeway, that allowance, wherein I can have that sort of difference between like the travel Steve and talking about early Germany, and then also being teacher Steve, which, let's face it, teacher Steve and ESL and language teaching supersedes and a lot of the other stuff. I mean, I don't think people are going to stop learning English anytime soon. I think there's going to be a need for education, and I think going forward into the future, even despite like AI and robotic advancements and all that other stuff, and not only that, I do see there is a need, not necessarily for English teachers, but for methodologies in which people can easily, or let's say efficiently and effectively, teach themselves or improve their own abilities, their own language abilities on their own. That is what I see myself working towards, is building up a series of whatever that is to help people learn a language themselves. And I derive this from my own push to learn Mandarin Chinese on my own, because I'll tell you, I've gone through a lot of teachers before, and I've mentioned in a few videos before, use your teacher as a mini test date. I think that's the best way to utilize dealing with paying someone to listen to your terrible language, to push you through those times. That's what it has to be done. So that's what I'd be looking for, is like self-study materials, self-study abilities, motivation, and abilities, like helping that sort of foster that sort of independent spirit to tackle languages on your own. Last thought. Do you think you could replace your current income with something online? And yes, this does follow the ESL yik yak that I just gave here, but this also comes from Gary Vaynerchuk, who talks a lot about this. He's like, it's very easy for someone to make $60,000 a year these days. And I go, that's easy for you to say. You do it. You've done it already, or you've done it. You're doing it, and you've done it several times. I'm going, I've never done that before. Good question. Could you do it? So I put the question out to you. Do you think, whatever your current income is, do you think you could replace that income by doing something online that you created? Very good question. I'll leave it there today, folks. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Show notes, tracks, and vids up on my website, stevensersky.com. Hope your Tuesday's going well. Stay hydrated. I know it's hot in the Beijing, hot and humid, but we'll get through it. Drink your water, ice cubes, and everything. Hope you have a good one. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again. Bye-bye. That's it. See you again. Bye-bye.